Hi, a pleasant day to everyone. I am Chelinda Rusilio Fortich, the Program Chair for the Bachelor of Secondary Education in Teachers College, University of Bohol, Tagbilaran City, Bohol, Philippines. I'm showing to you the map of the island of Bohol, where Tagbilaran City is located. The locale of the study is in the University of Bohol with this given GPS coordinates. This being structure is one of the many buildings of the university. The gymnasium is found in this building. We have over here our lush and green paradise inside the main campus. My study is entitled Teachers' Emotional Labor in Relation to Classroom Management Practices of University of Bohol, Tagbilaran City, Bohol. Teaching is an educational profession with individual, social, cultural, scientific, and technological aspects. It is a profession with the highest requirements for emotional labor or the regulation of emotions. In the present educational perception, teachers are expected to take upon themselves a variety of roles, such as becoming role models for students, guiding them, teaching them to learn, and instilling democratic attitudes and values upon them. During this interaction, the teachers are expected to impart knowledge, inculcate values, and carry out emotional communication with students. Their poise, bearing, facial expressions, and manner of dressing have an impact on their interaction with students. One of the many roles a teacher has to play is that of a classroom manager. Every teacher is faced with challenges to make their classroom a place for effective teaching and learning. Effective teaching and learning cannot take place in a poorly managed classroom. Classroom management is not yet teaching. It is a prerequisite to teaching. A common problem that beginning teachers face is good classroom management. Teachers cannot and should not teach when their class is inattentive, much more when it is unruly. When chaos becomes the norm, both the teacher and the students suffer. In contrast, a well-managed classroom does not just come out from nowhere. It takes a good deal of effort to create that conducive classroom climate. The person who is the most important for creating it is the teacher. In creating this climate, it also involves the emotion of both the teacher and the student, and this is how critical classroom management is. Furthermore, being a professor in the Teachers College department, the study aims to determine the relationship and effect of the University of Bohol College professors' emotional labor and classroom management practices, with the hope of developing improvement measures based on the result of the data gathered in order to help enhance the faculty development on the different programs of the university to produce productive and competitive teachers. The study aims to first determine the level of emotional labor and classroom management practices of the respondents. Second, investigate the relationship between emotional labor and classroom management practices. Third, determine the degree of variance in emotional labor and classroom management practices when respondents are grouped according to college assignment. And fourth, determine the degree of variance on the different dimensions of emotional labor and classroom management practices. The components of the educative process are the teacher, the learner, and the learning environment. Only when a positive relationship exists among them can teaching and learning occur with precision and predictability. To effectively determine the teacher's emotional strategies and classroom management practices, this study is based on different theories that are relevant to the study. According to Gross in 1998, emotion regulation is the process by which individuals influence which emotions they have, when they have them, and how they experience and express these emotions. Individuals differ in their use of emotion regulation strategies, such as reappraisal and suppression, and that these individual differences have implications for affect, well-being, and social relationships. Individuals may regulate their emotions at several points in the emotion process. The self-determination theory is a theory of motivation postulated by Deci and Ryan in 2005. It is concerned with supporting our natural and intrinsic tendencies to believe in effective and healthy ways. The attribution theory, proposed by Weiss and Copanzano in 1996, suggests that the employee's working condition in an organization not only directly affect job attitude and behavior, but also affect emotion like psychological frustration too. The theory also articulates that the positive or negative results are moderated by individuals' characteristic of the members. According to B.F. Skinner, all behavior is caused by external stimuli. All behaviors can be explained without the need to consider intrinsic mental states or consciousness. Jones' model of positive discipline defines the classroom discipline as the business of enforcing classroom standards and building patterns of cooperation to maximize learning and minimize disruptions. Furthermore, he said that to build a positive classroom discipline, teachers should model appropriate behavior and use appropriate classroom management methods. Carter's assertive classroom management theory in 1996 states that the teacher is supposed to be assertive and take full control of the classroom. He or she can do it by setting specific behavior rules, as well as positive and negative consequences that would result from students listening to or breaking the rules. These rules and consequences must be known and understood by the students. Assertive discipline allows the teachers to handle discipline problems with minimal disruption to the lesson. The study used quantitative descriptive research design. It made use of the survey method in the form of a questionnaire to gather the data. The study utilized two research instruments. For the level of emotional labor, it utilized the standard tool on Teachers' Emotional Labor Scale developed by Cooker in 2009. For the classroom management practices, it utilized the tool made by Sandy Washburn in 2010. Inclusion criteria for the respondents are the teaching staff of the university with regular status from the 11 colleges or departments. Universal and purposive sampling was done. To determine the correlation between teachers' emotional labor and classroom management practices, Pearson product moment was used. Analysis of variance was used to determine for the degree of variance in the teacher's level of emotional labor and classroom management practices when grouped according to college assignment. Variance on the different dimensions of emotional labor and classroom management practices. If a significant degree of variance is found, the data is subtracted further using Schiff's test to determine where the variance lies. Emotional labor is the process of managing feelings and expressions to fulfill the emotional requirement of a job. More specifically, teachers or workers are expected to regulate their emotions during interactions with customers, co-workers, and superiors. We have in here the four dimensions of the teacher's emotional labor. They are the automatic emotion regulation, wherein it refers to how genuinely they can express how they feel. The second dimension is the surface acting, wherein the teachers try to mask their feelings to show emotions they need to display. The third dimension is the emotional deviance. It is when teachers display emotions that is not expected of them. And the last dimension is the deep acting, wherein teachers try to put an effort to actually feel the emotions that they need to display and suppress their true feelings. Then we have in here the 10 dimensions of classroom management practices adapted from Sandy Wishburne in 2010. To name some, they are maximizing, structuring, and predictability in the classroom, managing behavior through effective instructional delivery, actively engaging students in observable ways, evaluating instructions, and so on. We have in here the table that shows the level of emotional labor and classroom management practices of the respondents. Results show an overall composite mean of 2.5 in terms of their emotional labor scale. This means that they moderately agree that they can manage or regulate their feelings and emotions to fulfill the emotional requirements of their job as a college or higher education teacher or professor. Whereas, for classroom management practices, the respondents have an overall or composite mean of 3.38, which means that these professors have implemented and followed through, monitored, and improved their use of classroom management strategies as needed. Pearson product moment of correlation was used to determine the relationship between the teacher's emotional labor and classroom management practices. We obtained correlation coefficient of 0.104939 is lesser than the critical value of 0.23552 at 60th DF and zero point zero 0.05 level of significance, thus failing to reject the null hypothesis. Results revealed that there is no significant degree of correlation between the emotional labor and classroom management practices. Whatever is the scale of emotional labor of the teachers, it does not significantly affect their classroom management practices. According to Zook, classrooms are changing. Change can come from a new generation of teachers, emerging technologies, student behaviors, or a combination of factors. To determine whether there is a significant degree of variance in the emotional labor of the teachers when they are grouped according to college assignments, the data were subjected to analysis of variance. The computed F ratio of 0.57965 is less than the critical value of 1.99 at zero point zero 0.05 level of significance. Thus, the null hypothesis is accepted. The results show that the response of the teachers in the 11 departments does not significantly vary as to their level of emotional labor. Data interpretation reveals that the professors in the 11 departments were able to regulate their emotions to comply with the occupational or organizational norms. Hochschild defined emotional labor as the management of feelings to create a publicly observable facial and bodily display. According to Hebson, teachers are increasingly required to manage their emotions just like employees in the service sector. They are required to convey different emotions during their interactions with students. They have to control between keeping a certain distance or appear uninterested toward their students to protect a professional attitude on the other hand, showing a sensitive and empathic attitude. That's why there is no significant degree of variance on the teacher's emotional labor in the 11 departments. These professors moderately agree that the management of their emotions they have high emotional labor. To determine the significant degree of variance in classroom management practices of the teachers when grouped according to college assignments, the data were subjected to analysis of variance. The computed F ratio of 2.386499 is greater than the critical value of 1.99 at 0.05 level of significance. Thus, the null hypothesis is rejected. As to where the variance lies, the data were further tested using Schiff's test. The results revealed that all pairings were insignificant. It can therefore be concluded that the management practices of the teachers do not significantly vary. There is no significant degree of variance in the classroom management practices of the 70 professors from the 11 departments. The respondents garnered an overall composite mean of 3.38, which is interpreted as highly practiced. The results demonstrate that the college professors have highly practiced classroom management procedures in their classes. It wouldn't be also be very difficult to manage college students in the class because they are already mature and most are self-motivated learners. To determine whether there is a significant degree of variance among the 4 dimensions of emotional labor, the data were subjected to analysis of variance. The computed F ratio of 4.081267776 is greater than the critical value of 1.99 at 3 by 276 df and 0.05 level of significance. Thus, the null hypothesis is rejected. As to where the variance lies, the data were further tested using Schiff's test. The results revealed that the dimensions 1 and 4 differ greatly, while all other pairings were insignificant. Dimension 1 is automatic emotion regulation, and dimension 2 is deep acting. Teachers have difficulty in automatically regulating their emotions and putting effort to actually feel the emotions they need to display. The respondents only slightly agree on suppressing their feelings to conform to what is expected. According to Hochschild, deep acting changes how an individual privately feels. There is variance because respondents moderately agree that they genuinely express how they feel, this one automatic emotion regulation, but they slightly agree to suppress their feelings to conform to what is expected of them. To determine whether there is a significant degree of variance among the 10 dimensions of classroom management practices, the data were subjected to analysis of variance. The computed F ratio of 9.15898 is greater than the critical value of 1.99 at 0.05 level of significance. Thus, the null hypothesis is rejected. As to where the variance lies, the data were further tested using Schiff's test, and the result revealed that there are 28 pairings that are significant and 17 pairings are insignificant. It can therefore be concluded that the management practices of the teachers do vary significantly. There is a significant degree of variance in the classroom management practices among the 11 departments with composite mean of 3.38 or highly practiced. The following conclusions were formulated. First, professors demonstrated high emotional labor. Second, professors have highly practiced their classroom management. Third, teachers' emotional labor does not affect their classroom management practices. There is a significant degree of difference in the classroom management practices when respondents are grouped into departments or colleges. There is a significant degree of variance in the dimensions of the emotional labor. Professors show significant variance on automatic emotion regulation and deep acting as dimensions of emotional labor. And teachers in the different colleges significantly vary in their classroom management practices. With the foregoing conclusions, it is therefore recommended that teachers are encouraged to improve on their emotional deviance and deep acting strategies. Teachers must utilize learner-centered activities, and teachers should participate in workshops on positive interactions. They are as well encouraged to use pleasant words and praise students for positive behavior. Teachers should provide a syllabus at the start of the semester, and the university should conduct school activities that will involve parents or invite them to witness any programs in their department. For the impact and outcomes of the study, the results of the study will be furnished to Human Resource Officer as baseline data for training needs. The implementation of the proposed teachers' personality enhancement measures is highly recommended. And the formulated measures is basically designed to improve the qualifications and quality of the teaching staff, thereby maintaining the status of the departments that are already PASCO accredited and making other departments qualified to apply for accreditation. So we have here the different literatures that are utilized in the study. I would like to share this quote from Henry Brooks Adams. A teacher affects eternity. He can never tell where his influence stops. And because of this, we must always strive to be a great teacher rather than the superior, good, or mediocre teacher. Have a great day, everyone. Lots of love from the city of peace and friendship, Tagbilaran City, Bohol, Philippines. God bless us all. Good day.